When you sit down to watch a Formula One race, what do you actually see? You see these incredible machines just cutting through the Las Vegas Strip at night, engines absolutely roaring, and drivers showcasing the literal pinnacle of human reaction time. It's thrilling, right? But what if I told you that the most dangerous, high stakes maneuvers in this entire sport aren't actually happening on the track at all? Surprisingly, they're happening behind closed doors. We're talking private jets and totally silent boardrooms. So in today's Explainer, we're going to peel back the curtain and look at the massive financial machinery secretly operating behind all that glitz of Formula One. We're going to unpack a series of recent agreements that are basically changing the DNA of racing forever. It's a fascinating question, isn't it? At 200 miles per hour, who is really in control? Because at those speeds, the margins for a driver are, well, they're measured in millimeters. But as we start to really dig into the numbers today, we're going to see that the actual control of the sport is measured in board votes, commercial rights, and just staggering sums of money. We're shifting away from the illusion of the racetrack straight into the stark reality of the boardroom to figure out who is actually pulling the strings here. Because honestly, this is the number you really need to keep in your head: $30 billion. It just completely reframes the entire conversation. We literally need to stop looking at Formula One as just a sport and start understanding it as a $30 billion poker game that, just happens to have cars attached to it. Literally every rule change, every new team on the grid, every single engine specification, it's all driven by protecting and growing this massive, massive valuation. Section 1. F1's Secret Constitution. Okay, let's dive into this. To really grasp the conflict tearing through the sport right now, we have to look at its absolute foundation, its secret constitution. And in the paddock, this is known as the Concord Agreement. It's this strictly secret, behind closed doors contract between the governing body, the commercial rights holder, and the racing teams themselves. And as of January 1st, 2026, the ninth version of this monumental deal came into force. So why does this matter to you as a fan? Well, because this specific agreement was designed to bring financial stability, sure. But for a lot of folks inside the paddock, it represents the exact moment Formula One officially prioritized the financial ledger over the lap time. And here is exactly why the negotiations over that secret contract were so incredibly fierce. $1.27 billion. I mean, that buys a whole lot of carbon fiber and champagne, right? It is the estimated massive prize pool that the Concordia Agreement dictates how to divide up among the competing teams. When you've got well over $1 billion sitting on the table every single year, the rules of how you split that pie, well, they become the absolute most important rules in the world. Section 2, the billion-dollar moat. Because look, with a prize pool that massive, the existing teams want to make absolutely sure they don't have to share it with anyone new, unless they are heavily, heavily compensated for it. The 2026 agreement effectively acts as this massive financial gatekeeper, building a literal moat around the existing billionaire owners. Just look at this staggering contrast. On one side, we have Cadillac, an iconic brand that secured an unprecedented entry to become the 11th team on the grid. Amazing, right? But the cost of admission is a jaw-dropping $450 million anti-dilution fee. Cadillac essentially has to hand over nearly $500 million just for the right to line up on the starting grid. And that money, it gets split equally among the 10 existing teams. Critics are arguing that this isn't about sporting fairness at all. It's a legalized moat designed to protect the valuations of the current teams and basically make it impossible for independent racing outfits to ever join the club. And it's really not just about the money. It's about power. It's about control. Take a look at this governance shift. Under the old rules, to pass a standard majority vote, you needed 6 out of the 10 teams to agree. Simple enough. But under the new 2026 rules, you only need 4 out of the 11 teams. This is a massive power grab, exactly the kind of thing team bosses like Mercedes' Toto Wolff had been fearing. It means the commercial owners now have way more weight to just push through changes, schedule expansions, or new rules, effectively overriding the objections of the majority of the actual racing teams. Section 3. The Ferrari Privilege. But of course, not all teams are treated equally in this boardroom poker game, which brings us to what we call the Ferrari Privilege. Ferrari is the only team to have raced in every single season since 1950. And because of that incredible history, the Concord Agreement grants them a totally unique, long-standing team bonus. Now, in the new 2026 deal, this bonus caps out at 5% of the total prize pool. To put that into perspective, in previous years, this was estimated at roughly $63 million. Just think about that for a second. Tens of millions of dollars before the cars even leave the garage.
They get this incredible sum literally just for showing up, completely independent of how well they actually perform on the track. No one else has this. They are the only team with this kind of guaranteed revenue stream.
Section 4. Algorithms over driver skill. So we've seen how the billionaires and the team bosses are operating in the boardrooms. But what happens to the drivers out on the track when a sport is totally optimized for business? Well, take a listen to this quote from world champion contender Lando Norris. He says, Formula One's gone too heavily led by the fact it's a business nowadays, and not how can you make the sport the best possible. This really anchors the emotional frustration that's echoing through the paddock right now. The drivers feel that their voices, the voices of the actual human beings risking their lives inside these machines, are just being ignored completely. They feel the focus has shifted entirely away from pure, unadulterated racing. And honestly, the absolute prime example of this frustration is the 2026 engine regulations. The rules mandate a 50-50 power split between the traditional internal combustion engine and electric power. Why? Well, because this specific green tech formula was heavily requested by corporate manufacturers to justify their marketing budgets. And hey, it worked. It successfully attracted giants like Audi and Honda to the sport. But the result on the track? Drivers are arguing they now have to act way more like IT technicians, just managing battery deployment via these super complex algorithms on their steering wheel, rather than pure racers pushing a car flat out to the limit. The business won the engine debate, sure, but the drivers argue it made the actual racing significantly less pure.
Section 5. Pricing out the fans.
And unfortunately, the ripple effects of this massive corporate shift don't stop at the edge of the racetrack. As the sport has absolutely exploded in valuation, that financial burden, it's being passed directly to you, the fan sitting in the grandstands. Our source data shows a 9.6% global average increase in ticket prices for the 2026 season. Going to a race is just becoming significantly more expensive across the board. So, the crucial point here is that Formula One is rapidly transforming into an ultra-luxury entertainment product. I mean, just look at the Las Vegas Grand Prix. It is currently the most expensive race on Earth, with an average ticket costing an absolutely astonishing $1,156. Wow. It's a very clear signal that the sport's target audience is heavily shifting toward the corporate elite, rather than the everyday motorsport enthusiast who's been watching for decades.
And it's not even just the ticket prices, it's the calendar itself. The aggressive push into glamorous destination cities like Madrid and Miami, combined with this plan to expand to 10 sprint races by 2027, it really tells you everything you need to know. More races and more sprints mean more broadcasting hours, which means much, much higher television rights revenue. It's prioritizing maximizing profit every single weekend over preserving that traditional working class pacing of a classic Grand Prix weekend.
Section 6, Sport versus Business.
Which brings us to our final verdict. We need to neutrally weigh these new financial realities against the very real fear that the sport is losing its fundamental soul. Because the truth is, there are two very valid sides to this explainer. On the one hand, you absolutely cannot deny the financial stability Formula One has achieved. The introduction of that $215 million budget cap has successfully prevented historic teams from going bankrupt, and the booming business model has successfully lured massive brands like Cadillac and Audi to the grid. It is a commercial triumph for sure. But on the other hand, you have this growing chorus of drivers and fans pointing to a real loss of the sporting soul. You have algorithmic, managed racing designed for corporate marketing, and a pricing structure that is frankly abandoning the loyal fans who built the sport's popularity in the very first place.
So it all leaves us with this final, really profound question to consider. Is Formula One fundamentally a racing series that generates money, or has it finally crossed the threshold into becoming a pure money-making machine that just happens to use racing as its product? The 2026 Concorde Agreement has absolutely secured the future of the business, but did it sell the soul of the sport to get there? Let that sink in for a minute, and let us know what you think.